This is George Dionne with Metal Express Radio, and I'm here with Ricky Wagner of Rezet. How you doing today, Ricky?
Hey, man, I'm fine. How are you?
Excellent. If I knew absolutely nothing about the band Rezet, how would you describe the band's music to me?
We always get the label thrash or speed metal, and I can agree to that because we totally started as a thrash metal band. Our influences were like the old Metallica, the old Megadeth, the old Exodus, you name it. Especially the American ones, the Bay Area ones, I really have to say. But as soon as we wrote the second album, Civic Nightmares, that came out 2012, we really started developing in all different kind of ways. I think it's normal. You start like kind of imitating your influences, but then you should at least develop an own style, which is what we totally did, especially since the last album and mostly on the new one, Truth in Between. I'd say now we keep saying like it's just metal. I mean, people label it thrash metal because they're used to say Rezet is a thrash metal band, but it's so much more, you know. How would you describe it? That's I asked Metal Hammer the same in other interviews, and they're like, "Why is he asking me?" Because I'm curious, because we really say this since the last album, especially now. You can't tell it's thrash. It's not like thrash is an insult. We come from it, but how would you describe it?
I would say it's heavy. It's definitely metal. I mean, you have the elements of thrash there. There's some speed, and there's some, obviously the political stuff behind it. I'd say a lot like Sacred Reich.
Cool. I like them.
You know, more of those bands that only real, people that look for that deep stuff knew about. You know, Sacred Reich's not on everybody's tongue. Megadeth and Metallica are.
Yes, right.
But you got that. I'd say it's a more modern thrash.
Yeah,
I mean, cool. But you're definitely not doing these long, indulgent solos and stuff like that.
No, we were a total riff-oriented band, like because I love the very old Megadeth, the first two records, and we did a lot of stuff like this. But then it kind of got boring. I love our old stuff, but then after a while, when you're on stage and just noodling around, there's more to do because people love to mosh and sing along on stuff they can relate to. And if you just show off, it's not really like audience orientated. That's why we got more and more into song orientated songwriting.
Well, people in general are, their attention spans are a lot smaller. I mean, a lot shorter. Back in the day, you could listen to a 2.5-minute instrumental introduction into a Megadeth song and be like, "Fuck yeah!" And today you're like, "Get to the first words, please."
Yes, that's right. But still, everybody's hailing the '80s records. I think, 70s and '80s music was the best for rock music. Still do. There is great stuff coming out. The problem is, most bands just sound the same. They're good, but they sound the same. That's why we decided to record the rhythm tracks live. You can really hear that because we had a fancy-ass studio. Third time again with Eike Frese, who does also Deep Purple, Alice Cooper, Halloween stuff. So he knows what he's doing. It was expensive, but it was great. And we decided to record live. That was hard, but now you hear it's a band. It's not the same Pro Tools snare triggers everybody uses, and that's what Metal Hammer says. What they love most about Rezet, German Metal Hammer, is they don't sound like one of the thousands of Slayer clones cover bands.
No, you don't sound like Slayer.
I love Slayer, but I don't want to sound like a Slayer cover band. You know what I mean? Like doing what everybody does. What's the point? I don't get it. I mean, I think that's what's so inspiring about the 80s albums or the 70s or even the 90s. Everybody did his or her own stuff. There wasn't that copying. And now it's like, oh, okay, it sounds good, but who is this?
Yeah, I listened to some album the other day. It was supposed to be this big military themed album, and there was no emotion in it. It was just going through the motions, guitar riff, monotone vocals, no passion, no energy, no nothing in it. And I'm like, you're not gonna get anywhere with this.
Yeah, the I think the keyword is listeners fatigue.
Yeah.
And when you record live, there are mistakes. And I'm a perfectionist when it comes to music, but I learned that this is what music is about. It's like if you listen to Led Zeppelin records, I mean, Jimmy Page does a mistake every bar, kind of. But he's a guitar god because he's an awesome songwriter, awesome producer, and it's just his way of playing guitar. Nobody else, and nobody wants somebody else in Led Zeppelin than Jimmy Page, right? So
Absolutely.
that's the thing.
Right. And on your latest album, Truth in Between, that comes out January 29th, 2021, you state that this is the most song-oriented album versus thrashy music album.
Yes, I'd say so. Yes.
The world has definitely given you a lot to talk about. And,
yeah.
It's pretty much all over this album.
Yes, it is. It is. It's not like I always say we have to write about this or that topic. Just happens, but we've always been a band that's writing about social critics and politics. Really, what's on our mind. Not like these funny thrash bands, which is okay to me, but yeah, we always write about what's going on in the world. That's right.
So you've released a few songs from the album. Let's talk about the meanings behind them. Back for No Good. What was the story behind that song?
We'd say like we don't want to talk too much about the topics, but of course everybody asks, so would be let's say unfair or stupid to not talk about it. But I really try to, or we try to write lyrics that could mean anything to anybody, you know. Of course they have a meaning to them, like most of the titles say, but I really try to write lines that you or somebody else can interpret it their way. And so and even Back for No Good can be seen in two ways. Also in terms of the video we shot, it's like, are we the band Back for No Good, or is it somebody else, like the system, or like society that's not Back for No Good, or whatever. I mean, it's like, it's the English I don't know the word, the English saying back for good. We don't have that in German. Okay. So it's like wordplay also, if you will.
All right, so we'll leave the songs open to do interpretation. That's fine.
Yes.
Plenty of bands like to do that. I'll ask you, sort of the lines that you go down and the things that you mentioned in your press release. You're open for differing opinions, but it seems like the people that claim that they're the most tolerant aren't tolerant of opposing opinions.
Yes, that's what I feel totally. We're a very open-minded band, and of course, I get my point of view. I get my own opinion. Everybody has probably, but coming back to topics, especially the title of the album, Truth in Between, says that, what you just explained. Right. It's about, like, to make it short, it's about freedom of speech or tolerance, because I have the feeling we all say we're like I said now, the most open-minded people. We're so different than people from medieval ages or whatever. But if you really look specifically on some topics and some point of views, there are many people that say like, I'm right, you're wrong. And exactly. It's like, who says who's right, who's wrong? I mean, if there's a God, he knows. But, you know, you could be right. I could be right. I could be wrong. You could be wrong. That's basically it.
Do you think that we'll ever get back to a society that can disagree with each other without being at each other's throats?
I think it's like what's on my heart. It would be like a main goal, but it's not up to me. I don't know. I think now we're totally living in the time. I mean, I'm 29 now. Of course, I see things differently than when I was 12 or even when I was 20. But I really have the feeling this is like, especially this year, is like a total. I never experienced something like this. So we're like in a step or on the edge of something's gonna change or so. It's just a feeling, but I don't know which way we go. I hope the best for all of us.
So you have a guest appearance on the song Half a Century with Sonia Anibus, formerly of Burning Witches.
Yeah.
How did her participation come about?
We just talked about having somebody as a feature on our album. We like some years ago we talked about Schmear of Destruction because we toured together and we're friends, and a couple of other guys, and we're thinking about guest vocals or so. But I think it came from us asking our friend Fernanda of Ex Nervosa, and she now formed a band called Crypta, and Sonia is in that band. And I guess we asked her to do a vocal feature, but it was too last minute or so she couldn't make it. So our guitar player Heiko had the idea of asking Sonia, who's like one of the biggest newcomers in guitar players, we have the feeling. So just wrote her and she was totally up for it. She liked us before, and we just sent her the tracks because especially that song had kind of a solo part missing. So it was an idea to look for guitar players, and yeah, just asked her and she was cool with it and she went for it. It's very cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Getting back to politics briefly and, you know, kind of the themes of your album, you know, you're 29 now. Is there any one thing that you've kind of changed your mind on in the last 10 years or so as you kind of watch the world going around you? Like, did you feel like one way about some subject, and then the more you found out about it, you're like, no, that's not right?
Whoa, that's deep. I think I'm kind of the same. I like to say I'll be 15 years old in my mind until I die. Just a musician or headbanger kind of stuff. I think you can agree.
Sure.
But the older I got, the more I don't know if open-minded is right, but the more different views I started to or I wanted to accept in any topic. So I think that's kind of something different because like you said, 10 years ago was way more like the go for it straight, fuck you, sorry, I'm doing what I want type of guy, you know, like like a punk headbanger, give me a beer and I don't care about you. and that really changed. I got like kind of more mellow in a way, but also more knowing what I want. So it's hard to explain, but maybe you get what I mean.
I do, absolutely.
I think it's kind of an age thing. Most people say stuff like this, and when you're like 18 and talk with a 30 or 40-year-old, you're like, man, why is this guy so lame?
And it's like that lame guy.
Yeah, and then the older guy is like, okay, let's talk about it in 10 years again, and you're like, no, I won't change my mind. You're like so boring or whatever. But yeah, when I look back, it's exactly how I felt. And now when I speak with young fans, it's the same. It's kind of funny. Like, yeah, it's like the thing. Yeah, you become more and more like your parents, like your dad. When you were a teenager, you hated them, but now you were really like, oh man, poor dad, what he been through.
Yeah, exactly. So this is your second album on Metalville Records. How did you find Metalville Records?
It was a management thing. I don't really remember, but yeah, the last album Deal With It was the first one we did for them, and we were satisfied. And I think they had the option of releasing another album, and they wanted it, and we did. So yeah, we just went for it.
Awesome. Are you guys planning a tour to support this album, or is it still up in the air because of COVID stuff?
Yeah, it's totally, everything is up in the air. It's I'm glad. I'm really always optimistic and playing music probably until I die, and I don't care about what's going on around me. Otherwise, we wouldn't have put out a record. We just thought, well, we're ready, let's do it. Because I know from a lot of other bands, they don't, and I can totally accept that and understand that, because they don't know what's going on next year or even in 2 years. And it's hard to plan because you just can't. And we are talking with other bands or bookers or whatever about actual plans for touring and stuff. Yeah. So if COVID-19 wasn't, there would be a lot. But for now, just going with the options, and yeah, let's see what the future will bring. I mean, can't do anything else.
Back in May, you guys did a streaming show. Did that go well enough that you would consider something like that after the album's released?
To be totally honest, I didn't like it at all, but we're probably gonna do an album release streaming show.
Okay.
That's kind of thing. Like, yeah, like Schmear of Destruction, he was my friend. He was always like against doing streaming shows, but now they do it on New Year's Eve, same time as Kiss. I'm gonna buy a Destruction ticket. I love Kiss, but I'm gonna support my friends. But yeah, you just can't do anything else now, can you?
No, it's rough. I mean, it works for some bands, others not so good.
Yes.
You know, Doro Pesh was doing socially distanced concerts there over the summer. Maybe that's something you guys can explore.
Yeah, our former sound guy, he's now sound guy for, Thunder Mother. I don't know if you know them from Sweden.
Oh, I know them. They're great. They're good.
Yeah, and they're going really big now. They deserve it. And they were like, their manager and booker was our former booker, and he's nuts with them because he really believes in them, and it pays off, it shows. But they were like doing 3 tours during COVID-19 and just rescheduling them again and again and again. He just doesn't give up, and I'm really like admiring it. That's really like, wow, it's kind of crazy, but it works. I think they've been the band worldwide that toured the most during that time. I think they play in front of like 30, 50 people a night, but well, it's better than doing nothing. And I don't think there's too much money going around, but they get more popular and popular because of doing it, because there's no other band. I think if we're gonna do a tour, if it would be possible, like social distancing tour, would be a lot of response, because people are just hungry for any music. But
I don't know why a band hasn't thought to play a Walmart or a grocery store, because those seem to be places where people can gather, right?
Yeah, right. I just been to one half an hour ago. Yeah, that's totally right. Yeah,
be the first band to do that. I just gave you a brilliant idea.
I'm gonna call our management in a minute. Yeah, it's still science fiction, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. So you mentioned that you're friends with the guys in Destruction. Did you guys meet on the tour that you did with them and Overkill and Flotsam and Jetsam back in 2019?
No, before.
Oh, you know before that. Okay.
Yeah, we toured a third album, Reality is a Lie, 6 weeks with Anvil, and it was our biggest tour by then. That was so great. I love Anvil, and we just came home. Literally, like a day later, I opened my email box, and it was the mail from our management, like Destruction is interested in getting you on tour with them, which was like a month or two later. So we were like, well, just go for it. Let's do. That was early 2017. That's when we got to know Schmier and the guys of Destruction. That was super cool. That was our first big bus tour. Annual was them in the bus, and we were in a motorhome for 6 weeks in the winter. That was tough. But then, Destruction was a real nightliner to us. Nervosa, that's how we got to know each other as well, and Destruction through Europe. And Schmier of Destruction actually was the reason why we got on the Killfest tour you mentioned a year ago, with Overkill, Destruction, Flotsam and Jetsam, and us supporting. So Schmier was the guy who told Overkill, like, come on, bring them on tour, bring Rezet on tour, and it worked. So I'm gladful for this.
Yeah. Hopefully you guys can get back out there in some other configuration of some type.
I love to go back to the US. We planned so much overseas for this year, because we released the last album last year and did Europe, like with the Overkill tour and another Nervosa tour and stuff. So 2020 was meant to we were meant to do a Russian headline tour. We've been there before in March, and that was exactly when they closed borders, like in the middle of March. And we were planning the US again, and we were planning first time South America. I spoke with Tony of Venom Inc. And it's sad, but I mean, we're not the only ones. But yeah, I hope we can come back to all these beautiful countries with this new album. Let's see.
Yeah, you also are celebrating the 10-year anniversary of Have Gun Will Travel.
Yeah, our debut, right.
You were planning to do some shows on it, but obviously that didn't work. Are you planning to maybe re-release it or do something special with it?
Yes, that's right. There's something in the pipelines for the end of this year. So it's just a bit of music and stuff. But no, we were asked by others if we're going to postpone it to next year. And we were like, well, what's the point? It's 10 years plus one, or what? We're not the Scorpions and do 10 years farewell tour,
Yeah. Are you working on anything else outside of Rezet? I know a lot of guys are doing multiple bands these days.
I'm going to start a project with a good friend of mine. I won't say anything by now. They're a known band from Ireland.
Okay.
Maybe other projects. Now, for a living, I did this before since 5 years. I'm giving guitar lessons, and it's actually getting better and better and better since COVID, because first off, I got more time because I'm not on tour like for 10 weeks or more a year. So I got totally time to get new students, and I have the feeling like many people, especially older ones and not only kids, now started learning an instrument because they have the time, which is great.
That's awesome. More people that can play music, the better, because the schools have given up on that pretty much.
Yes, same here in Germany.
Yeah. Well, that's all I got for you today, Ricky. I appreciate you speaking with Metal Express Radio.
Thank you, too.